Let's do a really good job and get out there. Okay.
Hold on. You're live.
All right. Let's do a really good job and get out there. Okay.
Okay. And we're here. The podcast is back after a brief 1-week hiatus where we did the fastest 3 minutes. We are back in action. My team still is winless. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But my team, if you're wondering whether we won a game, the answer was no. And I'm not the only winless team. And there's still an undefeated team amongst us. So a lot to talk
Yeah, that's got to
about.
come to an end soon.
I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe this is the year. Lot to talk about. We'll get right into the week 4 matchups. We'll talk about the waiver wire. We'll talk about week 5 predictions. So starting off, the first matchup I've got on my list is myself and Jason Smith. And I think that might have been my best week of the season. Like 112 is not a terrible score. It's not anything you write home about, but it's not a terrible score. And I still got mollywopped.
Yeah.
Jason was the second highest score.
Well, when Tyreek Hill is just going to go out and drop 40 for you.
Like, the sick part is, this week I was the fifth highest scorer. Like, that's not enough to I'm not like too tilted.
It might get you a win. It might get you a win.
Like in theory,
you were still below the average. You were still below the average for the week. But that's also a little skewed just because of 152, 147, 152.
Yeah, like
135, like
giant scores.
Just saying, like Mcmillan, who is on a rampage right now, finished 4th in scoring this week, and it wasn't particularly close.
Like, what hurt the most about this matchup is like, it was just Tyreek Hill, and I guess to a lesser extent Terry McLaurin, that just went off. And like I said, I think I might have said this on a different show that I did, but it seems like the meta in fantasy football now, more than anything else, is boom or bust, right? It's like these guys who can put up 40, like the Derrick Henry performance will win you a couple weeks back. If you had Tyreek today, this week, you probably won your match. It's like, and I haven't had anyone boom this year.
It seems like a lot of teams too. It's like they have like everybody hit it once, or like no one at all.
Yep.
Because last week I put up 72 points because like all of my guys missed. But the first 2 weeks of the year, it's like all of them kept going off.
Yeah.
Not that Daryl's team has been particularly strong this year, but like just down the list, like Kamara gets him 12, Lamb gets him 2, Kittle gets him 6. I mean, I don't know why he's starting Tim Patrick, but I haven't looked at the rest of his roster. But
for the bottom line for my team, I still haven't had. This was a decent week for me. I still haven't had a week where my team goes off, where my guys reach their ceilings, which through 4 weeks of the fantasy season is extremely troubling. It was comforting that Jonathan Taylor had a resurgence. Mike Gesicki may have hit his ceiling this week. He got a lot of targets with Jacoby throwing in the ball, and Miami chasing throughout the entirety of the game.
Yeah, I think all of your homer picks are actually a little bit better off with Brissett and rather than Tua.
Well, I mean, here's the thing about Miami. It seems like their defense isn't as good as it was last year. So the question, if they're losing games, if they're playing behind a lot, it makes their wide receiver and the 2 wide receivers, Waddle and Parker, and their tight end, Gesicki, suddenly much more valuable because Gesicki's not on the field unless we're in the passing game. And then he's like essentially a wide receiver. But enough about my team. As for Jason's, and I will say one last thing about my team, and then I'll shut up. I will get T. Higgins back this week, which is nice. Hopefully that's like a second win for me. I need something. I need a win in a bad way. At this point, almost certainly I'm playing for a wild card that I'm playing catch up for. It's still early-ish in the season, but like,
like there's still time. Like if you have a couple of big weeks, like you're right back in it. But like I think like right now you're like 80 points back on the wild card. Like or maybe I think I'm in the wild. Maybe I'm 6th right now. I can't remember exactly. Let me see if I can adjust my. Yeah, I mean, but at best you're like 50, 60 points back, which is like doable over like we still have 9 weeks left in the regular season because no, we still have 10 weeks left in the regular season because of the extra week.
Correct. And I'm not, like you said, I'm not that far out of it. Like, if the season ended today, out of the bottom 5 teams for, let's see, so Mcmillan's in, Jason Smith's in, Alex is in, you're in, Zach is in, and then of the bottom 5 teams in standings, it'd be Window, Daryl, Brad, James, and myself. It would go to Window. I'm
Window right now. Jeez.
85 points.
Jeez.
But it's not, I mean, we've seen how, like, Window also had a huge week this week. We've seen how, like, a 40 or 50 point swing on a given week isn't necessarily unobtainable. Like,
no, yeah. I mean, literally, I've had weeks, like, one week I put up 130, the next week I put up 70. Like, that can happen. Like, in any given week, you could just, everyone goes off, you get 140, and you have Derrick Henry. Like, that's actually very doable. He just goes out and drops a 50 burger. Like, he did like 3 or 4 times last year.
But it's right now, my hope is dwindling. As for Jason Smith, second highest score of the week and only missed it by 0.3 of a point. Again, when Tyreek hits for 40 plus, you're going to win a lot of games. Terry McLaurin looked great. He left a 30 burger on his bench in Cordell Patterson, from Atlanta. I don't know if that's sustainable. I mean, obviously, like 30 is not sustainable for him, but I don't know if he's going to be relevant or not moving forward. But just a ton of touches for Patterson. Maybe an RB2 flex play against the Jets because their defense is not great coming up. But I mean, I do think.
Oh yeah. No, go ahead. Keep going.
I was just saying, it works out. It worked out for Jason Smith that he has both Davis and Patterson, because if Davis misses time, or fails to produce,
I mean, Patterson's in this weird spot though. Like, he's obviously been like a monster so far, but like, do you trust him to throw him out there, like even if ahead of like Chase Edmonds, which obviously like he didn't this week. So
I mean, the last 3 weeks though for him, 21.4, 13.2, 32.1. I feel like you have to start him.
He's on a I mean, at this point, like once you get to like 3-4 weeks of consistent production, I think you have to. I don't know if Mike Davis is supposed to be back or not, but
he is, as far as I can tell, he is.
Oh wait, Mike Davis was actually in. He put him almost 10 points. Like,
yeah,
he had 13 carries. It's not like he wasn't in the game.
He's been a consistent floor. He's literally gotten between 8.7 to 9.8 all season long. Like, that's his like low floor or high floor, low ceiling.
Yeah.
But Cooper Kupp had maybe one of his worst weeks of the year, only 8.9.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper Kupp's been a monster the first 3 weeks. Like,
yeah, there's a lot to like on Jason Smith's team. I do think he's in a playoff position if his team produces as it should.
Yeah, I mean, despite Cooper Kupp only putting up 9 points, he's still the number 1 fantasy wide receiver right now.
Right.
I mean, that and looking at it, he's the number 1 and 2 with Tyreek. Like,
I'd kill for Allen Robinson to put up 9 points. So don't be throwing shade on 9-point performances. I'd kill for one. Moving on.
Trying to,
Window.
Spent too much time on your matchup.
Yeah, we did. Window got a much needed win, a big win at the hands of at the cost of Daryl. Both at 2-2. No one's in the chat, by the way. I'll monitor that, but no one's there so far. Okay. Thanks, guys, as always, for your support and watching. If you have any, we've gotten 1 or 2 random people who've joined the chat at random times in the past. If you're out there and you're watching, feel free to ask a question. That's what we're here for. We'll give you our opinion on matchups, on start sits, on trades, waivers, that sort of thing. But yeah, Window went to 2-2. Daryl falls to 2-2. And again, it's the boomer bust meta, right? Like, Daryl had Saquon go for 27, but Window had Mahomes.
Finally did something for him, yeah.
Yeah, but Window had Mahomes go for 31. James Robinson went for 20. DJ Moore went for almost 28.
28, like, that's, yeah.
Like, and again, it's just this boomer bust meta where if your players go off, you're gonna win. Um, Interesting. We have a question from James in the chat. James Zhao. If my league is set as the commish reviews all trades in Yahoo, if they don't push the trade through before the process date, does it get canceled or completed? In my experience, and I will tell you, in our league as the commissioner, I think I don't know if we've ever had a trade vetoed before. I think maybe once, or like
I mean, if we did, it was like super. I mean, we're in year, what are we in now? Is year 12, 13? Like, I think
yeah.
in the early years, we might have had one vetoed, but it's been a long time.
To answer your question, we don't play a Yahoo League, we play ESPN, but in my experience, I would say that if the league manager does not, or the commissioner does not veto the trade by the time the processing ends, it does get completed. Generally speaking, this is why I recommend making sure, if you can, have a commissioner who's going to be on top of that, because whenever I see a trade, as long as I don't see anything egregious, it's an instant process and complete, because I want to make sure players get in before Thursday night games. But that's a great question, James. And so hopefully it should get completed.
I believe that if it's not like vetoed, it should automatically process when that timing goes through.
Correct.
That is my understanding of how it should work.
Correct. So moving back to the matchup, it does seem like I said the boomer bust meta applies to this as well. Window looking much more healthy than he did when we were both winless at 0-2. He's won back-to-back games now, and was the third highest scorer this week with a very respectable 148 essentially.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, for Daryl, I mean, oh, here we go. Another question from James. I apologize. He asks, if my trade process is on October 7th, does it go around 12 a.m. on October 7th? I'm getting players playing Thursday night.
Ooh, if you're getting a player that plays Thursday night, it's not going to process until after the game is done. Like I said, again, in the experience that I've had on ESPN, it wouldn't, and you'd need your commissioner to push that through.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Again, this is the problem is we're not really familiar with Yahoo. I've maybe played one season of Yahoo in the entirety of my decade plus of playing fantasy football. I don't know what. Usually, it'll say what time it's supposed to process. Like, at least on ESPN, again, for where we're familiar, it'll say like trade will process on October 7th at X time. I don't know if Yahoo does that or not. In any event, what I would recommend doing is messaging your league manager and say, look, we have this trade. We need it to be processed, before the Thursday night game. And hope your manager responds. This is why being a league manager is important, because you have to make sure that this stuff gets done. So I'd strongly recommend you message your league manager and just tell him this needs to get processed. But I can't tell you, truthfully, whether or not it'll process in time for the game. My gut would say probably not. But then again, if it's supposed to process on October 7th, like, October 7th at 12 a.m. is tonight at 12 a.m., right?
If it's supposed to process October 7th, I believe again, thinking about how ESPN does it, it's normally like 3 o'clock in the morning is when that type of thing will process.
Yeah, so it could very well
similar to like
processed.
a waivers.
It could very well get processed tonight. I would say if you wake up this morning or tomorrow morning, it hasn't processed, message your league manager. And thanks for the follow. I appreciate you following the podcast now. So yeah, back to the Daryl Window matchup. Daryl, I gotta look back for a second at his scores the last 4 weeks. Let's see. Week 1, he put up 107. He won that, 111. He won that squeaker against Brad by like less than 5. We go to week 2. He loses and puts up 97. Then week 3 comes along. He gets his second win, puts up 117. The point I'm making here is Daryl's scores aren't that different from my own. Like, not to be the bearer of bad news. He's only up on me by 10 points, essentially, in total points scored. And this is the difference between who you play and why it matters. He scored 10 more points than me. He's 2-2. I'm 0-4.
Yeah, like I literally did this whole thing. Well, I mean, that was the changing rules that I recommended, is either like playing against the average or playing against top 5. I should have sent the thing to me. I do have it updated through 4 weeks. I'll make sure that I have it ready for next week, since we're going to be getting into the first trimester grades and everything next week.
That's a good point.
So I will have that ready.
For those new to the pod, I apologize for interrupting. I just want to say, for those new to the pod, this is a staple of our podcast since it's been in its existence. This is the 3rd year of the podcast, I'm pretty sure now. And we always have done trimester grades, like 1/3 of the season. We will grade each team. We've done it actually even before the podcast. We would do like league notes with the grades. Yeah. So this is a staple of our league that goes way back, and it's gonna be exciting to reveal some grades. I can't wait to see what I'm gonna get on my test. I tried my best, Dad.
Dude, if you go out and you put up like a 250 point week, you're right back in the mix.
Yeah.
I'm not holding my breath.
I'll be like that kid that like suddenly remembered all the answers to his test with 10 minutes to spare.
Yeah.
So yeah, Daryl, moving back to his matchup with Window for a second, just to wrap that up. I know I'm taking a little bit too long talking about some of this stuff, but like the point I was making is he's not really in a good place. I mean, Kittle had a bad day. CD had an awful day. Other than that, like the performances that his team put up weren't necessarily surprising. Ben and Jameis had
kind of like, there's a reason that I dropped Big Ben after week 1. Like he doesn't have anything left in the tank. Like his best week of the year has been 13.8.
So Daryl's team is hurting for quarterbacks, and we'll get back to that when we go talk about the waiver wire, because as you see from our episode title, this is the title of this episode is the Battle of Big Spenders.
I couldn't see the title this week, so
it's the Battle of Big Spenders, named for you and Zach, who play each other this week. So we'll talk about that. Our names are switched. I just realized that. Wow, that's embarrassing.
I am Sean Fitzgerald.
Yeah, wow, that really was embarrassing. Thanks, Alex, for watching. Alex is watching in chat, comment in the chat. Wow, I'm terrible at streaming. Moving on, speaking of Alex, we'll talk about Alex's team and the fact that he is the Manager of the Week. That's right, the Manager of the Week. An Amber Rift original. And also, because I had duplicated from that previous slide, I switched us back to where we are, like our names, it went back to where it was before. But now it's fixed. Alright, I'm gonna shut up. So, I'll let you take lead on Alex and Brad's matchup.
I guess I just don't understand. Is Deebo Samuel the only one that gets points in that offense?
Yes. It's eerily similar to Cooper Kupp in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, geez, he's the number 3 ranked wide receiver right now. Okay.
And that's the crazy part of it, is like the parallels between Brandon Ayuk and Robert Woods.
Cooper Kupp? Oh. Yeah.
Like the parallels there are eerie. Like in offenses where in the past we've seen 2 wide receivers be totally sustainable, and one guy is just dominating right now.
Yeah. I mean, Alex's team, I think, as time has gone on, I think eventually Deebo Samuel is going to regress. Like, I don't think he's the 3rd best fantasy wide receiver this year. Like, that just can't be true. He could still be a wide receiver 1, but I think there's going to be some regression. I mean, I think Alex's big question marks the first couple of weeks of the season was like, whoa, he's not getting the production out of Ezekiel Elliott and Najee Harris that he was kind of expecting. In the last 2 weeks, both of them have put up big numbers. Like, I think his team has gotten a little more scary. Like, since his I think he started off 0-1. Like, he's won 3 straight. He's got solid quarterback play. Like, I don't think he's ever in a week that I feel like pretty much everybody has had where it's like, hey, by the way, one of your quarterbacks just might get you 10 this week. And it's like, no, he's consistently getting 20 points out of his guys at least.
Well,
Um,
the Sam Darnold has been a surprise, in terms of putting
yeah,
up numbers.
he left. I mean, theoretically, he left what
12.
12 points on his bench.
Yeah,
just from Sam Darnold. Like,
and he's got some talented players on his bench, like, not guys who'll blow you away, but guys you need to be serviceable plug-ins during your bye weeks, which we haven't had to deal with yet. It'll really be interesting to see Alex develop, because I think he has a lot of potential there, like you identified. Like, he's getting scarier, and this is a big matchup for him because he plays Mcmillan going into week 5, which is, I think, maybe the best battle for Hagerstown that we've ever seen, because usually one of them is absolutely terrible. Is that my puppy?
Yeah.
Hi, little mama. Oh, you're wet. Why are you wet from your walk? Yeah, no, the best battle for Hagerstown we've ever seen. Thank you. So, yeah. Pugs.
We'll get into that.
Pugs joined the chat. Welcome to the chat, Pugs.
I love that it's like more people who aren't in the league that watch this than actually are.
It's so great.
I mean, it's not necessarily their fault, because we usually give them like 10 minutes notice, but still.
No, I'm going to kick some of the guys in the league out and make sure we get better people in our league. Meanwhile, Brad is at 1-3, and again, not looking much better than I am. Just saying. I mean, he has a lot more total points, but like, not a great week.
Yeah. No, not a great week. Again, it's just like a lot of mediocre performances. It's like, I don't blame him for benching CEH, but it just like really hurts. Like, Aaron Jones gets him 9.
Yeah. Or
Chris Godwin can't do anything, gets him 7.
Yeah,
like,
that's just it. Start him if you're gonna start him at the flex and get rid of one of those wide receivers.
I think he just has a lot of people that are going to have weeks like this, though, where it's like either I mean, obviously we get back to the boom and bust thing like a lot, but it's like Baker Mayfield, like you can't afford 9 points out of a quarterback when, I don't know, remember exactly how early he drafted him, or if he even did draft him. He might have picked him up off of free agency. But like, I think like you're not starting Baker Mayfield ever expecting only 10 points, especially against Minnesota.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of ran into that problem. I mean, we'll get into it this week on mine when I, like, similarly with Teddy Bridgewater, but it's like, you really just can't. I mean, I'd love to go back and actually check and see how many people actually win, but like, if your quarterbacks don't get you more than like 2 touchdowns, do you win that week?
Yeah. Like,
can you really afford less than like 25 points combined between your 2 quarterbacks? And I just don't think you can survive without that.
I agree wholeheartedly. So we'll move on to the closest matchup of the week, and boy, you pulled it out. Actually, you pulled it out by the skin of your teeth.
I had all the faith in the world. Game was getting ready to start. I'm sitting at the bar with Window. I tell him, like, no, dude, I'm gonna win. I went to bed at halftime knowing I only need 12. Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen will do it. Little did I know it was just Austin Eckler. That's fine. I woke up, saw the win, knew it was coming.
Yeah, Austin Eckler saved your ass. And Taylor Heineke had a great day too. Credit where credit's due there. But like,
he's just consistently getting 10 points per half. Like,
yeah. But like,
but at the same time, Teddy Bridgewater has one good drive and then out of the game with a concussion.
Yeah. And that one really hurts you because, I mean, in theory here, right? You are what? Let me see, 6th, 7th in points scored, maybe?
I've had a couple of down weeks. I will say that my 2 down weeks did coincide with...
No, I meant this week.
Oh, this week. Yeah, I'm pretty low this week. So this is one of the situations, and I know we're going to get into it when we get into the free agent stuff after this, but this is part of why I didn't go big on Hubbard when Window bid like 40% of his budget. And I know you said last week on it that you were kind of surprised like I didn't go higher, because I think, what did I put in there, like 75? Like, I went relatively low in the grand scheme of it. But I looked at my team and I'm just like, who am I? If I bid a bunch on him right now, like, they didn't put Christian McCaffrey on the IR. So they're expecting 3 weeks at the
It was
most
like
he's going to be
less than a grade 1 hamstring, is what they're saying.
Yeah, so like it's like maybe it's only gonna be one game, maybe it'll be two. At the absolute most, it's three. Am I gonna blow 40% of my budget on somebody that, at the best, I'm gonna start him for 2 weeks? And by the way, do you start him over Miles Sanders this week? I wasn't going to.
Yeah.
Which is why I didn't put in a huge bid for him. And I mean, he ended up doing a little bit better. I think I think Hubbard had 8 and Miles Sanders only had 6.2. I swear, like Philadelphia just hates Miles Sanders now. Like they refuse to let him run between the tackles, anywhere near the goal line.
Kenneth Gainwell is putting up numbers compared to Miles Sanders.
Like, it's infuriating. But like I just could not score a touchdown. I'm not gonna lie. Like I had a little bit of confidence that I'd get there this week going into the Monday night game, but like I just could not get touchdowns out of anybody. None out of Keenan Allen, nothing out of Hockenson, Lockett, Hopkins, Sanders. Like DeAndre Hopkins started off so hot and just like their offense is doing great. They put up 37 points against the Rams defense.
Yeah.
And he gets no touchdowns. Like
it is
only
crazy
67
to
yards.
See him not producing.
He's wide receiver 21 right now. It's absurd.
To answer your questions, Pugs, yes, this is the league where I'm 0-4. And Alex commented CMC is practicing today. So there you go.
I did see he showed up in full pads. He is right. Well, they've updated his stuff on ESPN. He's projected for 24.4 points. I'm expecting him to play this week.
It's huge that you got a win with the week he was out.
Exactly. I'm not going to complain. Obviously, I wish my team had done better, but I'm not going to complain about getting a 104-point win this week without Christian McCaffrey.
And James, man, the goes from bad to worse. We talked about how I think I talked about this in the fastest 3 minutes, how he made the kind of confusing move to, on the waiver wire, because he really wanted to, I guess, what was it? Let me look back at the offer report for a second. I know he did something with a wide receiver that I commented on last week.
James also just got really unlucky.
You know what it was? He dropped Henry Ruggs.
Yeah.
And
then AJ Brown is out.
He dropped
and then he loses DJ Shark.
And that's what I'm saying. That's like a backbreaker of a loss for him.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
Without DJ, I mean, I don't know. I was already saying I don't think he has a very deep bench. Let me go. I'm pulling up his matchup now. I was already saying I didn't think he had a deep bench, and this doesn't help. I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's going to have too many weeks where Dalvin Cook and Chris Carson combine for single digits.
Agreed.
That's just not going to happen again. So he got a little unlucky. Obviously, 100 points typically isn't going to be enough to win.
Everybody else on his team produce.
I mean, DJ Shark got hurt, got him 0. Nothing out of his running backs.
Saying,
he had good performances out of everybody else. Nothing spectacular.
No, but good enough.
Good enough.
And what's crazy about this matchup that makes it so painful is you literally had 2 guys essentially produce and a good performance out of your day, and he had 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 guys, maybe even 5 if you count Mark Andrews getting almost 10, do what they're supposed to do, and he still lost. It's about the quality of the boom or bust guys, not the quantity of how many of them you have, how many guys you have that put up decent performances. This is all. Maybe I should have made the title of this episode "Boom or Bust" because that seems to be the recurring theme.
Yeah. I mean, James's season is just doomed. He went too big at Jason's wedding. He vomited on the bus, and it's just his whole season is just going to be him vomiting on the bus.
Oh, that's so great. And
what did you do wrong at the wedding? That's what we need to know.
I didn't do anything wrong at the wedding.
I don't know. Your season says otherwise.
I mean, I would say that my terrible fantasy season is karma for a lot of other things. We know I'm a bad person, and this was bound to happen. And it's also no good deed goes unpunished, right? I work my ass off for this league, so I have to suffer in it. Our last matchup is Mcmillan versus Hall from week 4. Mcmillan stays undefeated. Zach stays with having a terrible fantasy team name.
His team is just not good.
And cue the, if you're playing bingo on the podcast, cue the Jerry shitting on Zach's team cards. Check that one off.
Miles Gaskin. Did he get hurt?
No,
or is he just
no. He just Flores did not run Gaskin. In the entire game, it was Malcolm Brown and Salvin Ahmed, and he got like a couple carries, and that was it. And it was like he's healthy, just didn't play. Jerry, I think we lost Jerry. Yeah, I mean, ultimately in this matchup.
Okay, wait, did you hear me? It looked like you froze for me.
You froze for me, so go ahead. Sorry.
All right. No, I was just saying, like, outside of his quarterbacks, I look up and down his roster, and it's just like, outside of Devontae Adams, I'm just like, I don't want anyone on your team.
Yeah.
Like, I don't love Joe Mixon. Obviously, I don't like Myles Gaskin. Mike Evans, at any given week, is like the 5th guy in that offense. Like, OBJ just never meshed in Cleveland. And no one on his bench is anybody that you want to start.
Well, he now
he has Josh Gordon.
He also did add Damian Williams in Chicago, who is going to be taking over the next 4 to 5 weeks with David Montgomery out. And speaking of which,
but I don't know. I'm not. Zach and I talked about this a little bit today. Like, I'm at the point now. Like, it used to be you needed to have your studs handcuffed. Nowadays, it's like you don't. Do you really want the running back in Chicago if they're not named David Montgomery?
I mean, from what we saw out of Damian Williams, it looked fairly good. Not as good as David Montgomery, obviously, but fairly good. Yeah. Here's the other thing, too. This is a critical stretch for Mcmillan. Like, we talked a lot about Zach's team, you know. He, again, got some decent performances. Dak and Jalen Hurts looking like the good quarterbacks I thought they were. But you're absolutely right. Devontae is like the one stud, and he underperformed. Darren Waller did about his floor probably at 13. Mike Williams had a terrible day, and that's the real question mark because Mike Williams was putting up ridiculous numbers to start the season. And
yeah, I mean, the touchdowns were good. The touchdowns are going to have to regress. Like, he's not going to get, 4 touchdowns every 3 weeks, like, especially when he's the 3rd best player in that offense. If you're not counting the quarterback.
Burchak says in the chat, Jerry versus Zach this week. Next week's pod is going to be fun.
Yeah, it is going to be fun. We'll be watching all the games together.
And he also said that offense is trash. Nagy is a clown. But no, like I mean, Mcmillan also had his score boosted this week by a 23-point performance out of the Bills D. Houston finally looking like they were supposed to look and looked awful. Mcmillan could have easily, not easily lost this game, but for that 23 points out of his defense, right? Let's say it's 5. All of a sudden, he's down to 120?
Yeah, I mean, 135 is still a solid week. That's going to get you a win most weeks. It just also happened to be that, what did we say? He was the 4th or 5th highest scorer this week?
Yeah, 4th.
Again, this is another reason why we should be going to the averages. We should be going to the top 5. Not that it would have mattered this week because he's still there, but, he could have very easily, obviously, a third of the time gotten a loss this week.
The big question for him is, what does he do to make up for the loss of David Montgomery? He still did have James Conner and Tyler Boyd, who had great, performances for them on his bench. I would think the play is maybe start Henry and Henderson at running back, start Cooper, Thielen, and Boyd at the flex.
I mean, I would make the argument, especially with the half-point PPR, that's probably what should be happening.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Darrell Henderson. I know he's he was hurt, but he's been pretty solid. But no, I mean, honestly, I think he's going to be a fine RB2. You can move him up into that spot. And he has other wide receivers that he can throw in there.
So moving on to the offers report, The reason why this title was the Battle of Big Spenders is because you and Zach had the two biggest bids, I think, on the season to date. And yours takes the cake, $550.
I have an explanation.
I'm going to let you finish, but I just wanted to set the stage for the fact it was $550, 55% of your budget, and you could have had him for $92. He was yours.
I may have miscalculated how high other people would bid. Because people are out here throwing out like $450 on backup running back. And this week, like I will say one big thing that I miscalculated was that like a third of the league has already used 50% of their budget.
True.
So like that's not something I really accounted for. I should have also accounted for, Mcmillan just refuses to participate in FAAB and is never going to bid on anything. So like.
Here's the interesting thing. So like I'll be transparent. The reason that I didn't bid on Trey Lance wasn't for lack of interest. I love Trey Lance. I would be so happy to have him on my team. But if the question is, do I want him more than do I want him drastically more? And I knew I'd have to put a big bid on him. I knew I'd have to put at least like 150 on him. Do I want him more than like Josh Allen? Of course not. Do I want him more than Joe Burrow? Maybe, but like not.
Probably not.
Not at that price point. And same thing for Danny Dimes. Like Danny Dimes.
I mean, I'd rather have him than him, but I get what you're saying.
Not for the price point. And the thing is, and because I can't. We have a 3 quarterback. For those who don't know, in like who they were just randomly watching, it's a 3 quarterback maximum because we have the super flex. So you can only roster 3 QBs, which means that at any given time there's at least 2 quarterbacks who are on the waiver wire that should be starting. It makes it a lot harder to. You can't hold this guy. You can't I can't get him if I want to keep my 3 quarterbacks.
It's the same logic that I ran into with Hubbard. It's like, who am I start? Like, if I put a bid in, who am I starting him over? Now, my team, the strategy that I went with in the draft. I waited on quarterbacks, and I look. He gets 1/2 of the start, and he gets you 20 points.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so much upside compared to the quarterbacks I have. Like, and Teddy Bridgewater got a concussion. He has a history of him. He's probably out. So, like, I knew I wanted him because quarterback is my weakest position. I knew I needed him. I knew I needed to go get him.
I totally get it.
I thought there'd be 4 or 5 bids out there for him. I'm amazed
too.
that only one other person bid.
And here's the
thing.
I
said, I miscalculated how much I needed to bid.
The bid's not that bad of a situation because you have FAAB for a reason. If you want your guy, get your guy. I'm a big believer in that. Like, if you believe Trey Lance is the guy that's going to make your team into a contender, you have to get him. So it's not necessarily a terrible bid. But it again,
it was a lot.
When you make a big bid, you are inevitably tied to the rise or fall of that player. When you put that much of your budget into somebody, just like Chuba Hubbard is going to be tied to Windows' team and his success or failure, you're tied to Trey Lance, and Zach is tied to Damian Williams. 44.4%, $440 of his budget went to Damian Williams.
He needed a running back.
Well, and here's the other thing, too. I was shocked Mcmillan didn't bid on anyone this week. Why would you not grab Damian Williams? Throw some of your budget at him.
Anybody. Bid for something. I think I don't want to throw an insult or any shade right now at Mcmillan, but last week you kind of gave a compliment to him, like, he has not picked up anybody. I don't think that's like I'm so happy with my team. I'm almost kind of wondering, like, do you not want to fuck this up enough? Do you just want to like let it ride because like you nailed the draft and you don't want to ruin it in free agency? I don't know. Like I said, he hasn't spent a dime of his budget. He hasn't added or dropped anybody. So you're saying you're surprised he hasn't bid on anybody? Of course he hasn't bid on anybody. He hasn't done any ad drops all year.
Yeah, but this was the time. He has David Montgomery. Yeah. Like, this is the time where he could go balls to the wall, throw in a big bid on Damian Williams to get him through the next 4 to 5 weeks. Because here's the other variable that he hasn't factored in the equation. Maybe you have bye weeks coming up.
Yeah.
Teams, your roster is going to be harder to fill a starting lineup, but everyone's got the same handicap to an extent. But like, if your running back's going to be out for over a month, get your handcuff, throw some money on him.
So I will say this in his defense. Now, here's the thing. It's another one of these situations where, do you really want a different running back in that offense? Maybe you don't. Maybe you're comfortable starting Derrick Henry and Darrell Henderson. Looking at his roster right now for this coming week, he's starting 3 running backs. He has James Conner in his flex.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just comfortable. He's like, again, am I going to throw 40% of my budget and have this guy be the 4th running back on my roster? Well, like, I get why he did it. And like I said, I know I was just throwing a little shade at him. I'm pissed off his team's too good right now. But maybe this is a thought right now.
1 or 2 more interesting ad drops before we go on to the predictions. Not only did Zach throw 44% of his budget on Damian Williams, he threw 22.2 more percent on Pirine, Samaj Pirine.
That one I don't get.
I don't get it at all. Like, do we really think that he's going to be like? I understand like Mixon was stretching. There might be some kind of an injury concern there, but like, I don't think Mixon's out for the year. I don't think Mixon's might even be out for an extended period of time. I don't know. Let me actually. I'll pull up Joe Mixon.
I know he didn't practice today.
Okay. Do you know who has Mixon?
Zach does. So Perrine is his handcuff.
Okay. Maybe.
So it is a handcuff situation, and that's part of the reason why I said no. Like he needs a running back. If Joe Mixon's out, he definitely needs one. Myles Gaskin's hot garbage. And then after that, who does he have?
Low grade ankle sprain week to week.
Yeah, no, like in his running back situation after that, though, Latavius Murray, a backup, Tony Pollard, a backup. Like,
yeah,
maybe Latavius Murray is more of in a timeshare.
I get it, but again, it just to drop. I mean, it is just like mind boggling to drop like literally 2/3 of your budget in 1 week.
Yeah, I mean, I essentially just did the same. So like, I get it. He needed somebody to put in there,
and I'm glad no one's making fun of me for dropping Laviska Shenault, then spending 8.7% of my budget to get him back.
Well, this is speaking of that. What's up with people dropping it and then immediately having like remorse for or regretting it? Like, so Window had Trey Lance, so Window was about to drop 10% of his budget to get him back.
Yep.
Like he had him and dropped him before this week, and then immediately Jimmy G goes down.
Yep. I mean, it's just bad luck, but it's like you drop someone at the worst possible time, then you're like, and that's why I will say I do like playing with a 16-team roster or a 16-player roster, because it makes it harder in terms of who you have to keep. It makes the waiver wire more competitive. So yeah, that's about it. I saw there were a couple more.
Nothing too crazy.
There were a couple posts. You know what's? I think that James is watching the offer report and figuring out who to pick up based on who I have unsuccessful bids for. I threw like 3 or 4 backup bids in case like I don't get Chenault, I do this, do that. And one of the people was actually it was Jason Smith picked up Sterling Shepard, who I had on one of my backup waivers. No one. Really...
Yeah, I don't know if your strategy is too good. Hey, who's in last place in the league? Who are they trying to get? Those are the players I want.
Fuck off.
Not even the first players that you want. It's like the secondary and third guys that you want this week.
I had that coming. Let's do our predictions. The week 5 matchup, Daryl versus myself. I'll let you go first since it's my matchup.
So you guys are like identical in your projections. Oh man, like I want to pick you, I do, but all right, yeah, Sean, you're gonna get your first win of the week here.
Hey, I'm glad someone believes in me. I'm trying to load it. For some reason, I have a little bit of trouble loading the page. Hang on 1 second. Stand by.
I mean, there's a couple of things. Like, I haven't been in love with Alvin Kamara this year. I mean, he's not been terrible, but like RB14 is not what you expected him to do. Saquon Barkley is coming on a little bit more strong, but I honestly think that Dallas is going to get up early. And I know he's still involved in the passing game, but I don't think he's going to be getting 20 carries in this game. Like, I think it's going to be much more on like in the range of like 10 carries. He'll probably still get his 5, 6 targets, but I think his touches are going to be a little limited just from being down early in this game.
Yeah, I mean, so the good news for me is I have a lot of, I think, pretty good matchups overall. I'll have to go to the individual team pages.
Yeah. I don't like either one of his quarterback matchups either. Like Winston against Washington and Wentz against Baltimore. Not loving that. This might be a week where he only gets 20 points out of his quarterbacks, and that could kill him.
Right. My only bad matchup of the week is Allen Robinson playing the Raiders. Pasty is apparently pretty good. But aside from that, like, I've got good matchups, and even on my bench, I've got some good matchups. It's about figuring out who I'm going to start and whether or not they do well. But, like, I have to believe that at some point when I predict that I'm going to win, that it's going to pay off. I think also I don't think it'll be anything, but Barkley is limited in practice, as is George Kittle. Maybe one of those guys goes down and makes it a little easier for me. But I'm going to pick myself. I think my quarterback performances will get me through. So moving on, the next matchup is Bad Luck Brad versus Jason Smith.
Yeah, Jason gets a dub. Like, there's just too much offense here. Like, I don't love Godwin. Like I said, this is my problem just with Tampa Bay in general. And I'll get to it. I'm going to say the same thing with Alex. It's like, who gets the points this week? I don't fucking know. Like, it could be Godwin. It could be Evans. It could be, if Gronk is back, it could be Gronk. Like, Leonard Fournette might just, get 3 touchdowns. I just can't ever predict anything in that offense. Yeah, I don't love any of his. I don't love the matchups for Brad. Jason's team is looking stronger than I think it is, just because his wide receivers are so strong between Hill, Kupp, and McLaurin.
Yep. I mean, he has the best wide receiving core in the league.
Yeah. I think I would like to say mine is there, but his is just better right now.
His is absolutely better right now.
Like, it just is. Like, after week 1, I probably would have made an argument for myself, but, like, it's not close right now.
Yeah, so we both go Jason Smith on that one for the reasons.
Yeah, Jason's getting the win.
Especially because, like, he already had a slight edge. I would say Kyler's a slight edge on Lamar. And
absolutely. Kyler Murray's the MVP right now.
Yeah. And I don't think... Like, even DeAndre Swift and Chase Evans have been serviceable at running back, and I don't think Aaron Jones and Kareem Hunt are that big of an upgrade over them right now with how they've performed. So I'm going to go Jason over Brad as well. Window versus James. James projected to win.
I think Dalvin Cook is going to have a big bounce back game. This is like such a weird matchup because look at their flexes.
Yeah.
They're both starting a Washington running back.
That is crazy. And how often do you see that?
I don't know. And like, part of the thing that Window might run into the problem, like, and maybe Window just hasn't updated his lineup and he'll have to adjust it. But this is a part of the problem with his team is like, if Christian McCaffrey plays, his RB2 right now is useless. And he's starting 3 running backs.
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't have anyone on his bench that he trusts to put in.
I would suspect if he had to, he'd probably put in maybe Corey Davis or Devin Singletary, maybe Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, like Devin Singletary is essentially in a timeshare with Zach Moss. I was thinking about starting Zach Moss this week. That's probably who I'm going to start if Christian McCaffrey doesn't go.
Right.
So, despite having the worst running back in the flex spot here, I am going to go with, again, James getting his first win of the week. Or first win of the season. Trevor Lawrence just lit up Cincinnati also, and now Aaron Rodgers gets them.
I'm also... You made a compelling argument. The other thing that we didn't factor in, I'm not sold on Zach Wilson. Like, obviously I think Mahomes is the best quarterback of the 4 that they're starting. But, like, Aaron Rodgers also has the propensity to put up big numbers in a game where Cincinnati might be playing with a lead and they have to come back from behind. I would say Tannehill hasn't looked great this year, but he's looked better than Zach Wilson. So
Yeah, well, Zach Wilson's averaging 2 interceptions a game. Like,
right.
I mean, so you say Tannehill hasn't looked great. I mean, he's put up at, I mean, his worst, I mean, he's gotten better at 14, 14, 21, 19. Like, he's been fine. Zach Wilson, though, he put up 18 in week 1, then he had 2. And then he put up another 2.
No, that's what I know Zach Wilson's terrible. I agree with you there. I'm saying, like, for Tannehill, like, putting up 14, like, the first 2 weeks of the season, like, you don't go home and like, man, I'm glad my quarterback put up 14 points. Like, and especially with where you're drafting Ryan Tannehill, he was like drafted probably as a top 10 quarterback, right? Like, he was one of the better.
He was drafted 38th overall.
Yeah, like, and for your quarterback who you drafted in the 4th round to be putting up 14, 14, 21, and 18, not great, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, he's QB 18 right now, which isn't terrible. He's still a QB2, which is what he drafted him to be because he has Aaron Rodgers. The only problem is Aaron Rodgers is currently quarterback 17, which is blowing my mind to read that right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. But we're right now we're in sync on three of our 4 picks. Now this one might separate us. The battle for Hagerstown, maybe the best one in league history. Mcmillan versus Burchak.
Yeah.
I will be happy to go first here.
Go ahead. I know who I'm picking, so go ahead. We should start doing blind reveals on this, by the way, so that way we're not making the argument for each other. Like we should do it and then make our arguments.
Okay. You're right. For now, do you want to hear? Do you want to? We'll say it at the same time. I'll count it down.
Okay.
I'll do a 3, 2, 1 count, and we'll both say our pick, and then I'll explain my rationale. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Alex. Ah, damn it. All right. Well, the reasons why is I do think I think Alex's running backs are starting to find the form that we thought they would have, and I think both of them have juicy matchups. Zeke against the Giants, Najee against the Broncos. I think we're going to see them both go off. I think Justin Jefferson's also just a great player who's going to. The Detroit pass defense is absolutely abysmal. They can't.
Mcmillan does have feeling, though.
I agree, and actually a lot's going to hinge on which one of them eats more. But I just don't see. I see the Rams and the Seahawks game being kind of a shootout, which benefits Alex tremendously, given that he has both quarterbacks in that matchup. And Miami has played Tom Brady fairly well, generally speaking. So for all those, plus McMillan's going to start the Bills D as he has all season long, and they have Kansas City.
That is something I think he should. I mean, I'm not going to give him any advice, but yeah. So I do think that this is really just going to come down to the running backs because, I would say I expect Elliott and Harris to do better than Henry and Henderson, but Henry gets Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's just not good.
I agree.
Henry could just go out there and run for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if he does that on Jacksonville. So that is what I really think it's going to come down to. But to the thing that you were saying, Wilson and Stafford, I think are going to be in a shootout. I think the wide receivers are kind of close to a wash. If he does start the Bills against Kansas City, I think that's a mistake, and that's going to kind of make up the difference in the tight end situation here. So
yeah,
I think it's going to be close, but I am going with Alex.
I agree with you. I think it'll be close. And shout out to Zach, who just joined the chat as well. So that leaves the last matchup, and Zach, you joined at just the right time because we're now predicting your matchup with the Battle of Big Spenders. This is actually a rare projection. 50-50 win probability. It's projecting you to win by less than 2.
Yeah.
I
will. I mean, you know who my pick is, but I'm gonna throw in a little bit of a caveat to it. If Christian McCaffrey plays, I think I get the win. If he does not go, I think Zach will win this matchup. Obviously, the drop off because I think it's gonna be close either way. Okay. But the drop off between McCaffrey and my next running back is so big. I don't think my team can make up that difference.
Okay. No, I that actually is sound logic.
Yeah. I mean, I think his quarterback situation is obviously better, but who knows? Trey Lance might have himself a day. But, I mean, again, he literally just picked up both of his starting running backs off of the waiver wire. And again, I've talked at length now about Mike Evans and the Tampa Bay offense, and you don't know what's going to happen with them. So,
but here's the thing:
I think Devontae Adams is going to fucking kill me. But
I actually, this is tough. This is going to be a very close matchup, I do think.
I mean, so I think when you break it down and look at it individually, okay, more realistically, DeAndre Hopkins shouldn't be in my flex. He should be up there and switch out Keenan Allen. So,
sure.
Looking at it by position, Dak Prescott or Heineke? Obviously, Dak. Look at the running backs. It's not close, mine.
Both yours, assuming McCaffrey plays. If McCaffrey doesn't play,
sure,
then
it's closer.
I give the nod to Damian Williams actually over any of your backup running backs.
Oh, well, but I'm talking about collectively the two running backs. Austin Eckler plus Miles Sanders is better than Damian Williams and Perrine.
Yeah.
Or Zach Moss.
It's closer.
No matter what my running backs are, closer, but my running backs
his quarterbacks are better, your running backs are better, and a lot will hinge on the wide receivers.
Wide receivers, I think, are kind of a wash in the grand scheme of it. Like Tyler Lockett, DeAndre Hopkins versus Mike Evans, Devontae Adams. Like Mike Williams, Keenan Allen are pretty split. Like
I actually give you a nod there at wide receiver just because of the matchups.
I think it's close.
But I'm saying just because of the matchups, I would give you a slight. I would say it's close. I give you a slight edge. And at tight end, I would give him obviously an edge. Defense.
I mean, how big of an edge are you giving him though? Like
he has Darren
how
Waller.
Big of an edge? I have T.J. Hawkinson. They're 1 point difference per week.
I understand that they're 1 point difference per week, but I don't think they finished the season 1 point difference per week.
I would bet right now, if you want to make a bet on it, T.J. Hawkinson will finish higher than Darren Waller.
I will. Do you want to do a slap bet? Slap bet?
How about we bet $100? And I'm giving you points right now, by the way. You got to remember that.
I'll instantly accept. Instant accept. Not even hesitating. Like it's
all right, $20. $20.
Whoa! What is this? I accepted 100. Now you're going down to 20. What is this?
Okay, you can say I accepted, but if I'd said okay, I'm gonna bet my 100 slaps first year one, you're like ha, yeah, I accept. Like
what? So are you saying 20 or 100? I'll let you decide.
Well, like I said, I'm giving you points. I'm not gonna give you $100 on top of it.
20. Okay, so $20.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, I appreciate you retracting. Like I appreciate you admitting that this is a wild bet you're making.
It's not wild. It's not wild. I just I know I'm obviously first of all, Darren Waller is projected to be higher than Hawkinson. He already currently after 4 weeks is up by it's 4 points. It's really not a lot.
Yeah.
What is the actual total
Also, Alex commented Waller greater than Hawkinson. Thanks, Alex.
I'm just saying, it wouldn't surprise me if Hawkinson finishes higher than Waller.
I get it. Hawkinson has had a good year thus far for a tough position. All those things considered, we didn't talk about the defenses. I don't know what to expect out of these two matchups, honestly. This is tough. It is going to be a close game.
I think so. Like I said, I think if McCaffrey plays, I'll win a close one. If he doesn't play, I'm going to lose.
I'm going to give the edge to Zach. I will predict Zach here and now, regardless of McCaffrey playing.
Regardless. Okay.
And the only reason why is I do think Damian Williams is going to have a decent run day. That'll, I think, compensate. I think McCaffrey probably doesn't play. Or if he does, it'll probably be a limited snap count. I do think Zach's edge in quarterbacks gives him a reasonable likelihood that one of his guys may go off. And I think that Trey Lance, while we saw the great in him, his boom or bust potential, we haven't seen the bust yet. He is a rookie quarterback. Yes, he is a dynamic talent. Yes, he is a mobile quarterback, which is the meta. But maybe due for a rough day. Although, actually, now I'm reconsidering because Arizona and San Francisco might be a shootout too.
Man.
I'm going to give the edge to Zach because I got to stick with my gut. But that's what I'm saying. That's the only one we disagree
right.
on too. Everything else is we agree on.
Yeah. Again, and if McCaffrey doesn't play, I just don't really see a path to victory for me.
Yep.
It's too big of a drop off.
So that's it for the Week 5 podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Shout out to all the guys who watched. James, Alex, Pug, Zach. Thank you for commenting in the chat. 4 concurrent views in the chat. That is, I'm pretty happy about that. You know, that's pretty good. We can,
4 all the way through?
We can. No, well, I'm saying like we've had 4 different people comment in the chat.
Oh, okay, nice.
So that's good. You know, it's good. If you like I said, if you guys ever have any questions, comment on our Facebook page. Hit us up in our Facebook group. The links are in our description. But more than anything, good luck to your players this week. Hope they stay free from injury, and we'll see you guys on the Week 6 edition.